Para maior comodidade de todos os presentes, por gentileza.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We would like to ask you to take your places and switch off your cell phone. This workshop is a hybrid workshop. We have some people here face-to-face, and we have someone online. We are going to start the workshop, the control of infestation of golden mussels.
We lost them.
And now we would like to ask you to ask the questions only in the end of the panel. So for the opening, we are going to call the National Director of the Energy Agency, Agência Costa, Vice President Evandro Vasconcelos, the Technical President of Tijuá Energy, Newton Lins Buarque Sucupira Filho, the Manager for SPIC, the Manager of SPIC Brazil, Sunny Jonathan. You can take your places. We're going to start with the opening with the Director Agnes Maria da Costa. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Very happy to open this workshop. I would like to welcome you all, Newton Lins Buarque da Filha, Evandro Vasconcelos, and all people also virtually here online. It's interesting to comment that we're talking about golden mussels for such a long time, and now reading more about this research work, I'm very happy to say that we had a very nice development. So this workshop is to engage all the stakeholders, so the public sector, private sector, the universities, because we are really looking for the best biotechnological control of golden mussels, and to talk about how we can go on with this work. I would like to give you some numbers. We have this infestation for more than 30 years, more than 10,000 kilometers infested, and more than 60% of our basins will be infested until 2030. And when we talk about the water basins, we need to think not only about electricity, but also other sectors. And it's very interesting to say that this is a invading species. So we are working on an innovation agenda. It's a third phase, but this is really very, very important also for public administration. And when we think about the electrical sector, we are talking about 40% of our and here we have some risks in the operations and the availability of these turbines. Also, when we think about the costs for the sector, when we think that we really need to sell energy, we are talking about $120 million per year for the golden mussels. And we are talking about the third phase because 20 projects already were concluded. What can we see today as the biggest challenge? We have a lot on the technological side, and this was new for me. We had a genetic modification. There was no formal program. So, and now we need to scale up this. And on the regulation side, we are also talking about something very interesting. And this is the first biotechnological control that is going to be tested worldwide. And looking at the markets, we need to identify the economical clients and the solutions and who is going to pay for it. And we're talking here about all the environmental aspects. When we look at the social aspect, we also need to deal with prejudice in society when we talk about genetically modified organisms. And we're talking about investments and deployment, and we really need a continuous financing of 50 million real to put this solution on the markets. I think these are very huge figures, and that's why I would like to welcome this work, and I hope that the work we did up to now will be very important for the market. Yes, thank you, Director Agnes. And now we have the Vice President of CPG Brazil.
Ótimo. Obrigado.
Yes, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Agnes. Good afternoon. Welcome you all the professionals of ANEL that are part of this research project. And I would like to really say that this is a very important initiative, very relevant. We need to work together. A lot of money invested here is public money, and we need to advance in this project. So we had some articulated actions as we have here, Joia, but some actions are very isolated. It would be very important to work together in a more efficient way in the water basin of Paraná. So this project is very important because here we can have the integration and we can work together in a more efficient way. I would like to welcome also Dr. Milton, the president of Tijuá, and welcome to all the people of Tijuá, Kusan and Speak, and all the professionals that helped us in this project. I had the opportunity to see, I was in Juquia, and we invested 3 billion real in the modernization of Juquia. We have 34 machines, and they're going to be modernized in 10 years. So we really are doing everything from the turbines, the generator, the whole plant. We're really giving the Brazilian society 2 completely new plants of 21st century, completely automatized, digital technology, the control of operation. So we are delivering really modern plans with to the Brazilian society. I had the opportunity to go to Juquiá, and I had the opportunity to go into the turbine. So it is really a big volume of golden mussels. So it was a huge amount. So really more than 10 really big vessels from one machine, and we have 14. So it's really a big amount. And I was very worried when I left the plant, because if we do not work more, the mussels, they developed very quickly. And if we don't win this battle, perhaps this power plants will not be feasible. So we have the concession, though this is something, this is an asset for the Brazilian people, and we have billions of real invested in the power sector, and this is really a huge asset of the Brazilian country, of the Brazilian people, and we can lose everything. So this is very impressive. We did a lot of research, and one of the research were about so they have a genetical change, and they can fix in the grades, and they are very quick, and they develop much more quickly than we can develop measures against them. So this is really very costly. When you stop the machine, they start dying, and you cannot go there, because I think they have, that's a very foul smell, and you need to wait days and days and do the ventilation, and then you go into the turbines and you try to take down all the mussels. They are fixed, and you see, and again you have carbon monoxide, and you need to stop the work. So sometimes it's more than a week just to get the mussels out of the coil, and then the machine is standing for more than a week, and this is the lack of efficiency. So the initiative of ANEL is very important for us, and someone told us that's like the dengue. That's I can kill the insect in my house, but if my neighbor does not, so this won't work. So you cannot do this alone. We need really integrated actions. We need to do this together, and only with integrated actions together we can win this battle, or we can be quicker than the reproduction of the mussels, because otherwise they are going to win this battle. And these are really very important assets to the Brazilian country. So congratulations to ANEL, to this initiative. So it's a very important role and doing a very good service for Brazilian society. And we have a lot of research. We're going to show today some research we are discussing, and we believe in this genetical modification. So we are going to produce muscles so the next generation is not reproducing anymore. We believe a lot in this. So we have already some prototypes, and we saw that this is efficient, and now we need to scale it up, and we really need huge dimensions, much more than we did up to now. And here we need to work at Itaipu. We have the Eletrobras company and AES, all the companies, all the structures need to work together. So congratulations to all in this process, and thank you to ANEL for doing this. Thank you.
So we thank the words of Mr. Evrando, and we inform that we have here together with us virtually a member of the Council of Administration of CEMIG, who is Mr. Afonso Henrique Moreira Santos. Welcome, Mr. Santos, and he will be saying a few words, but now we will have the words of the President and Technical Director of short term. We have a stage with, we have a project with 9 stages already defined. They are going to be implemented, and we are fully interested in participating and contributing in whatever is possible. So once again, on behalf of Tijuana and our colleagues that participated in this project, and here with all of you, those who are present here, and those who are following us virtually, I would like to thank and place Tijuana at your disposal to contribute in these efforts. And here I repeat the suggestion made by Dr. Evandro of this greater articulation, whereas all the stakeholders, not something punctual, something that we have to leave here today, already carrying this idea of implementing these kind of conversations with the representatives of these companies that have this common interest, and define a plan of articulation, and of course with the leadership of Anel. So thanking once again and congratulating Anil with Dr. Agnes for this initiative, which is spectacular about this topic. Well, thank you, the words of Mr. Newton, his participation, and now we would like to invite, let's give them a hand. And now we would like to invite Mr. Sunny Jonathan, Manager of Research and Development of Speak Brazil.
Pela palavra, é um prazer estar aqui.
Thank you for giving me the floor. It's a pleasure to be here in this panel. I would like to welcome all the members of this panel, Dr. Agnes, our colleagues here, Evandro from CTG, Newton from Tijuana, Afonso Henriquez from Semig Online, and it's a pleasure to be here on behalf of Speak Brazil. Speak Brazil is a company that belongs to the group Speak Global, and it's the largest energy generator in the world, solar energy, the second in wind energy, and the 10th in hydropower energy. Speak Global is present in 46 countries with more than 130,000 employees and more than 203 gigawatts of power installed. Speak Global, among the targets that it has, we want to become a world-class clean energy company. We have as a pillar of innovation the strategy of reaching position and recognition as an integrator of ecosystems and technology provider connected to the generation of energy in their different fronts. Currently, the product brings several solutions and innovations, such as research and applications with green hydrogen, both for transportation and generation of energy, platforms of smart and integrated energy, among other actions, always including integrated development, putting together energy and the environment. We have 3 gigawatts in Brazil. We operate with wind, water, and generation with natural gas, and we will have 2 plants of solar generation as of 2024. Following the strategy of our headquarters, innovation and R&D in Speak Brazil ranks among the 3 main strategies, and this confirmed here by our efforts, dedication, and the resources that we have placed here in the R&D and innovation programs and in our projects. And we have this program, Generation and Innovation, which is an open program through which we make public callings. And it's one of the opportunities that we have of intaking new ideas and have new partnerships for R&D projects. And at the same time, all the investments that we have and the efforts in R&D are directly linked to the main strategic fronts in our business, the smaller environmental impact, energy and operational efficiencies, and R&D that is part of this strategy. In addition to the sources of generation and energy storage that we have. In this project, Speak Brazil participated actively in its performance. I would like to recognize here our technical team from Speak Brazil, Miguel, Claudio, Paulo César, and all the others that are together with them in this project. We had relevant progress in the development of this project in the 3rd phase. So the points raised by Dr. Evandro and Dr. Newton are the same points that we have tried to solve in our operations and reinforce the message that it is important that all the impacted sectors could get together so that we can all find solutions, not only for the electric sector, but all the other sectors that can be impacted in the whole Brazil for society as a whole. I would like here to remind you that we have an open public hearing from ANEL, and we suggested that we might contribute for the strategic plan so that it might have the opportunity of finding strategies also for the muscle. We suggested this to the groups we are working with, and we are going to contribute actively for this, for Neil's public consultation, because we act with products that come from innovation, using very well the budget from R&D that we have. And I thank Director Agnes from ANEL, all our partners here, CTG, Tijuá, the directors, José Maquiel, Malco from Hubs. I changed the companies here, I'm sorry, he said, and the people from R&D from ANEL, Paulo, Carmen, Fernando, all the team that supported us very much. I wish you all a nice day, a great event. Thank you very much.
Bom, agradecemos ao Sani da Speak Brasil.
We thank Sunny from Speak Brazil, and now virtually we will give the floor to Mr. Afonso Henrique Moreira Santos, who is member of CEMIG's board and former director from ANEL. First of all, I would like to welcome all the panel through Agnes, Evidio, Evandro, and I'm always very happy when I speak in an ANEL environment, even if virtually. I was there in the beginning of the story, and Agnes, you left the ministry, came here. I left ANEL and I went to the ministry. We combine a little bit about regulation and policy. Perhaps the words that I'm going to say now are very much directed to that part, because I know that you have this sensitivity, because you have these two biases of understanding and magnifying a little bit my concerns. First of all, it's about the R&D issue. I have seen the most different attempts to deplete the R&D in the Congress and the executive environment. And I started from scratch when we try to create, consolidate, and make the companies understand the importance of R&D. It's very good to have Sunny here at this panel. Sunny, do you remember the climate change R&D? Do you remember that nobody wanted to coordinate? And you then received this task. For more than 15 years, we said what was going to happen, and it is happening. Isn't it right, Sunny? All the companies didn't want to touch on the subject because we didn't want to touch on energy at any point. And this was a vision that was totally misunderstood, trying to hide results, afraid of momentarily losses instead of changing policies, making offsets, guaranteeing a balance of the contract. But R&D in this country has frequently been charged. On the contrary, before some universities, and even mine, as relevant in the electric industry, now we have tens, not in the electric system, Evander knows it, but it's in the environmental area, in the area of automation, in the economy, and R&D has been essential for this. Agnes, we cannot move backwards. We have to make the companies understand the need and opportunity and the importance of innovation, creativities for their companies, for their institutions. And this, even in my institution where I am a board member, we have this challenge. The company has to understand that not as an obligation, but as a regulatory gift, something that society gives, so that it becomes different, becomes a pioneer, innovative, at least to be able to protect against the environmental crimes that we did in the past, and we are paying for them now, like the case is of the golden mussels that came because of ships' ballast to water. Crimes of this nature, many times we want to hide, but this will cost us dearly. I was talking a short time ago with Tadeu, a director from CEMIG, and said, CEMIG solved this problem very well. The infestation that we have was in Porto Grande, Jaguari, São Simão. CEMIG left the concession aside, and now They don't have problems. Nova Ponte is the same. So it's just like to put the golden missile under the carpet. Those who are in the front part knows the difficulty. And I would like to repeat, never forget the market, because we have to always take the market into consideration. What was done with the provisional measure 759, and then the indemnifications, the huge indemnification, and all the regulation of that generation was corrected, thanks heaven. And the Hague improvement was created that provides the economic signal. How you who are at the panel can bear witness the importance of this improvement that was created with all the adjustments, so that we have an economic signal for companies to invest, to improve and make innovations. So I feel very comfortable with this panel. I'm not going to speak a lot, but to me, the point is essential. Innovation through R&D, the environmental issue has to be taken seriously. We cannot find excuses to blame the environmental agents. Each citizen is responsible, as well as each company. And the other point that is my final message, yesterday I read that the ministry established a bonus for the innovation of the concessions of the generation of Copel, something around 3 billion. Before the pandemics, even on that theater, I said, there will come a time when the governance will have to pay for CTG, for SPIC, to Itajaú, or Itajuá, sorry, he has Itajubá in his mind. They're going to pay to operate a power station. It's extremely risky to operate a power station. We have environmental issues, social issues, we have floods, droughts, and we are competing on price with solar energy, with a reduced price that are not long-term permanent structures as we have in the dams with 110 years or so. So we have to look at the hydropower plants differently. What their operators, their investors, either they're big or small. And finally, I would like to congratulate these three representatives of institutions, agents of the electric sector, for their boldness, innovation, and environmental responsibility. Congratulations, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Agradecemos as palavras do senhor
We
Afonso.
thank the words of Mr. Afonso, and also we thank the authorities that were part of this opening ceremony, and we would like to invite you to return to your seats so that we can continue with our program for this workshop.
Momento, a audiência que nos acompanha através.
So I welcome the audience, 128 people virtually present, and internationally 7 people here with us in this workshop. Thank you very much for your attendance. So continuing our activities now, we will start panel number 1 that brings the topic, the challenge of the control of the golden muscle, and it will be moderated by Mr. Modo Ribeiro, and we will invite for the first presentation, National Plan for the Control of the Golden Missile, Mr. Ivan Teixeira, environmental analyst from the Brazilian renewable system.
Primeiramente, agradeço o convite, a oportunidade de poder falar sobre.
First of all, I would like to thank the opportunity and the invitation to be able to talk about this plan, which is far from being a perfect plan. It's not infallible. cannot defeat it fully our problem, but this is what we have. And I would like to show what we were able to do in these past 6 years, and despite all these problems that we have in the past few years here in Brazil. My name is Ivan Teixeira. I am from the Coordination of Biodiversity from IBAMA, from the sector of forests and biodiversity. Putting into a context, the golden mussel is one of those many exotic invasive species that came to Brazil and have spread out through Brazil with a growing registration, not only here in Brazil, but worldwide. Some studies show even a revision that was published, where Asia Simbolov, among other authors in 2023, mentions that in the last 40 years, the number of exotic species registered in places they are not native from is greater than the number of exotic species registered since 1970, going 500 years backwards. And this is a number that is increasing, bringing economic impacts, as you know, environmental impacts, as we all know, and also human and animal health. And the program is starting to be better understood, as we saw, unfortunately, in these past 3 years because of the pandemics. A landmark in the treatment of this topic in the federal arena was the first symposium of bioinvasion carried out in Brasilia in 2005, because until then, this was a topic that was restricted to the universities. And now it's other industries are looking to this problem, even sectors from private initiative. But there is a long way ahead of us. We also had another important landmark, that was the Kona Bill Resolution number 7 of May 2018, that establishes the national strategy for invasive exotic species. And it's an implementation through a project with a global environmental facility, where we have the participation of the Ministry of the Environment, IBAMA, environmental agencies from the states, from the municipalities, NGOs, Fiocruz, and other institutions, exactly to treat of this problem of the invasive exotic species in Brazil, and to prepare a national program of eradication and of a detection in advance of these species that is coming out of the oven right now. And this would be something new in Brazil, and it will be implemented in the years to come, few years to come. So specifically about the golden mussel, we had a publication in the end of the year 2018, a ordinance of the Ministry of the Environment number 3639 that tackles exactly on the golden mussel issue. I will try to be very brief. This plan, what is it about? This plan brings us a vision of the future, and we are working with long-term horizons, 25, 30 years. And even I would say that vision of the future is something that we are willing, so that this can become concrete in the maintenance of those basins that have now invaded without the presence of the golden mussels, with the priority for the Amazons and the Tocantins, Araguaia hydrographic regions, where we still now we don't find them.
And also the control of the species of the invaded basins. So the focus of our plan are actions to prevent and control the damages. So in the basins that were invaded, but have some not invaded places. So this is really a huge work, a huge project. So we want to prevent the dispersion of the golden mussel and to control the populations in the invaded areas. Here we can see the beasts, and this is really when I heard about this, I was really scared because of the impacts of this beast in the system, in the water systems of Rio Grande do Sul. Here, that's the map. It's not the newest version. We have some more at San Francisco River, but here we can see the damages the mussels are causing. And I would like to tell a little bit about the original plan, how we planned it in 2018. We had 6 specific goals and 42 actions in these special goals, with products, with deadlines, with collaborators, and the estimated costs. So for every plan, we had a coordinator to coordinate the biodiversity, and a technical consultant, and this was published in the law 3624 and in the decree 9759 revocated in 2023. So that's the old story. But this decree, so thankfully this decree was checked. So for every plan, we have one coordinator. And what's the role of this coordinator? So to talk about the plan, can also participate on the execution and be the link between the collaborators and the coordinators. So for every action, we can have a lot of collaborators. They support the actions with their knowledge in their areas. So how should this work? The plan has a monitoring every year, and we think about 5 years, and this can also have more 5 years, but also we had the first monitoring in December 2020, and here I would like to state the following. So we saw that it's important to have an answer and to do something, and we were waiting for the answer. So the groups, but we have no groups, but the problems are still here, and we all have these problems, and this is we need a joint action. So unfortunately, 2021, everything, we had the pandemic, and we had a very tight agenda, and last year the situation was similar because of the uncertain political scenario in Brazil. So here, every actions. I'm going to talk about the goals, the situation of the actions. We have the first monitoring in December, and now we have 9 actions that are okay. 11, we have some problems, that's 27%, and 16 actions are not yet started. And here we have really a lot to do. It's 16 actions. Well, that's not the scenario we wanted to have, but compared to so many plans, national action plans of ICMBio, it's about what we can see. So here that's not so easy to see. Here we have some actions that were canceled and 3 were grouped. When we start to talk about the specific goals, this is the first goal. We want to have scientific data for prevention and controlling. We want to systematize and give technical scientific information about the species. This was the axis, and nothing happened because the huge impact was the problem with the scientific system here in Brazil. So science is very important. Innovation and science is very important. And we can see this in products and the projection and the image of the country and company. It would not be wise not to invest in research. This is really very stupid. And we need to have more resources in this plan. We have some problems, and we need to develop a robust strategy together to have a communication plan that is continuous and we can present to the public. And science is part of it, and the development of methodologies. We need to have informations of the species, controlling. So this was also a action where we had some problems. So these actions are very important for the whole plan. We need to have communication, we need to have qualification of the actors to see what we need to do, what also the decision makers in the different decision spheres. So sometimes people don't have the technical knowledge because we have a filter. So also in the public administration and private companies. So, but they should have some basic knowledge just to take the decisions. That's very important because only that's how we can avoid mistakes. And when we see the licensing process in hydropower plants, we see that basic environmental plans and communication, here we have a lack. We need more actors, more sectors. We need, so some stakeholders were very timid or wouldn't even come. So these are very important actors, and they could benefit and could also contribute a lot to this plan. So communication, I already said. The third goal was to prevent invasion of the species in new basins. This is very, very important. We worry a lot. We may not imagine what could happen if these beasts reach the Amazon basin or Araguaia, because here everything depends on the river, and here we have other countries in Pan-Amazon. This would be very, very bad. This would be a catastrophe. And that's why it is very, very important to have a risk analysis protocols, and we need to have new projects, R&D. We need data about the distribution of the species. So we need to have scientific information. We need money, plans, how we should do this. And again, the funds, and also what Mr. Afonso said, it's important to identify the dispersion routes and vectors according to the species. We need partners for joint actions, because Obama is not able to do this alone, and also the power sector can't do this alone. So we need to do this together, and we need to focus where we're going to go and how we can reach this goal. So the fourth goal is we need an institutional network for monitoring and a lot of research. We have the help of the power sector, the universities. So we need to implement control measures, monitoring in different environments. So that's really important to control the golden mussel, because they accumulate toxins, and it's still a problem. We have no solution, no satisfactory solution. It's being revised. We need to define the monitoring of the impacts. This is being done by the board of IBAMA, the quality board. We are developing a manual with directives, a protocol for a quick response. This is being implemented in the national strategy. Then important also to complement the law for the prevention, controlling, monitoring. We have some gray zones, and we need the integrated vision, and especially for the mussels. And we need to work together with other sectors of the government and also private sector. So here, identify new areas. These are new actions, to propose new actions and priorities of the prevention. The next steps would be looking for funds for R&D, and not only the financing. We need clear actions and that's like the airplanes. You need really the gas. We need to involve other people, other users, and to ensure the capillarity of all the actions, because we're not going to solve this in Brasilia and the capital. We need all the states, and we need all the regions of the country on board, and we need to have the monitoring every 3 or 6 months, so to maintain the engagement with the stakeholders. We need to intensify the informations and the communication. It's also very important to evaluate the actions up to now and identify the most important actions to make the plan feasible. Is it important to restructure the plan? What are the most important actions for this plan? And to do the restructuration, we need more participation of the institutions, perhaps new law or regulation. We need communication strategies, and we need to integrate the initiatives all the time because it's our joint problem. And we have the plan in the site of IBAMA. And if you want to contact, if you have a question, here you have my email, and I would be happy to get in touch with you. Thank you very much, and I hope I was able to be understood.
Descemos as palavras do Ivan
We
Teixeira.
thank for the words of Mr. Teixeira. We started this panel very well, and now another presentation will bring the topic, development of solutions for the control of quagga and zebra mussels in the United States. This will be a presentation that will be done by Mr. Yale Pasamanek virtually.
Hello. My name is Yale Pasamanek. I'm a biologist at the Bureau of Reclamation, U.S. government agency responsible for water distribution, power generation in the Western United States. I'll be talking today about our efforts to control two invasive freshwater species, quagga and zebra mussels. Quagga and zebra mussels are closely related, and both species were first introduced to North America through the Great Lakes. Zebra mussels, shown by red dots on this map, have become widespread in the central United States around the Great Lakes. Quagga mussels, shown by green dots, have spread in the Great Lakes and to the southwestern United States, where they have infested large reservoirs such as Lake Mead and Lake Powell, which are critical for water storage and power generation. Quagga mussels are therefore of particular concern to my organization, the Bureau of Reclamation, and are the focus of much of our work. Like the golden mussel, quagga and zebra mussels have wide-ranging impacts, including to infrastructure for hydropower generation and water delivery, as well as ecological impacts and impacts to recreational activities such as boating. The image on the right is of a gate at Lake Mead. When quagga mussels were first discovered, they were already covering infrastructure, and the impacts to operation and maintenance were immediate. Control of these species in large lakes and reservoirs is a major challenge. There have been success controlling settlements in infrastructure, such as in closed pipes, using technologies including UV irradiation, and populations in some small lakes have been eradicated with chemical treatments. But none of the currently available controls scale to large water bodies, both for economic and technological reasons. In recent years, the advent of new biotechnology approaches, such as the ability to conduct targeted genome editing with CRISPR-Cas9, and the potential for propagation of deleterious traits through a population by gene drive, have created the potential to develop novel methods for the control and eradication of large populations of invasive species. Several years ago, the Bureau of Reclamation used a prize challenge to ask for novel solutions to the problem of controlling and eradicating these invasive mussels in large water bodies. The winning submission came from a company called BiomeLab, which was founded by two scientists with expertise in cellular and molecular biology. Unlike many efforts at biocontrol that focus on disrupting or altering aspects of reproduction, BiomeLab proposed a novel approach based on a naturally occurring disease called disseminated neoplasia. Disseminated neoplasia is a naturally occurring cancer of the hemocyte cells, which are blood-like cells in marine bivalves. It has been observed in a number of marine bivalve species. This disease is unusual because it is a cancer that can be transmitted between individuals. Although the cellular and molecular biology of this neoplasia in marine bivalves is not fully understood, BiomeLab proposed the goal to focus on broadly conserved cancer genes as a method for mimicking this natural phenomenon. Neoplasia in marine bivalves is unusual, but it is not unique. Transmissible cancers are known to occur in two other species. One is in dogs, where canine transmissible venereal tumor is likely to have originated over 10,000 years ago. The other is a facial tumor in Tasmanian devils. This example is perhaps more relevant to our efforts in quagga and zebra mussels because the disease has spread across nearly all of Tasmania since it was first discovered less than 30 years ago, pushing the species close to extinction. Interestingly, Lake Michigan, which has both quagga and zebra mussels, is similar in size to Tasmania, suggesting biocontrol at this scale could be possible for a targeted agent. Bureau of Reclamation and BiomeLab have established a collaborative effort to develop disseminated neoplasia as a control for quagga and zebra mussels. The idea underlying this approach is that the population of invasive mussels could be seeded with neoplasia cells, which would be taken up by the mussels. The cells would then proliferate within the mussels they infected and eventually spread to other mussels. With time, this would cause widespread mortality as the number of basic biology to be able to apply techniques for development of biocontrol, genetic biocontrols. To this end, BiomeLab has been studying the cell biology of mussels to characterize dividing cells, which will be key to developing neoplasia. In the figures on the right, you can see microscopy of gill tissue from a quagga mussel with DNA in proliferating cells marked in green. We are working to understand what these cells are and how and when they divide. Key steps in developing a neoplasia. BiomeLab has also worked on methods for culturing and cryopreservation of cells, both of which will be necessary for maintaining neoplasia cells once they are developed. BiomeLab has also been using a reference genome that I developed for the quagga mussel to identify genes to target for the creation of neoplasia. One such target is P53, which is known to have a role in the formation of cancers in many other species. They're also developing methods to introduce and express engineered DNA, including through microinjection, such as you see on the right. We're still a ways off from having testable technology, but believe that we are making significant progress in this effort. I'd like to also briefly discuss a second biocontrol project we have undergoing, which, rather than using biotechnology approaches, is looking for parasites that might be infective and deleterious to quagga and zebra mussels. This is a partnership with Malloy and Associates, and so over the last 3 decades, looking at quagga and zebra mussels, have identified parasites, but none of them have been shown to be infective and deleterious such that they would be promising biocontrol agents. However, in the native range of quagga and zebra mussels in Eastern Europe and Western Asia, there are a number of other closely related mussel species. And the effort of this project is to look at those species and identify their parasites and to test whether those parasites from sister species might, in fact, be damaging to quagga and zebra mussels and be potential biocontrol agents. To that end, Dr. Malloy has actually established a field laboratory in Montenegro to conduct tests, and to date, he's identified 12 parasite species observed in these closely related mussel species, and he's been able to successfully conduct transfection trials in the lab and the field with parasites transferring from one species to another. Although no pathogenesis has been observed to date, these efforts are ongoing and also very promising. Thank you very much for your attention. My contact information is here, as well as the website of our lab and efforts, and I'd be very happy to answer any questions about.
Agradecemos a apresentação, senhor Yale. Agradecemos também ao nosso intérprete que fez a tradução em tempo real. Antes da próxima apresentação, que também será internacional, informamos que teremos um momento de interação com a plateia aqui e também com interação com as pessoas que estão acompanhando através das redes. Quem não está conosco aqui presencialmente poderá participar através do WhatsApp, o DDD 61 99 115 2757. 99 115 2757, o DDD 61, para enviar as perguntas para os painéis. Então, daremos continuidade agora com o tema Infestação do Mexilhão-Dourado na China. A apresentação será realizada pela senhora Menzheng Xulink, da Tsinghua University.
Hello everyone, I'm Menzheng Xu from Tsinghua University, Beijing. Thank you very much for inviting me to share the golden mussel infestation in China. Here is the outline of my talk. I would like to briefly introduce golden mussel's distribution in China and worldwide. Then challenges caused by golden mussel infestation and our prevention strategies and ongoing work. First, let's see golden mussel distribution in China and worldwide. Intercontinental shaping and interbasin water diversion promote mussel spread and dominate the invasion risk. This figure shows spread and tolerance of the three widely known invasive species: quack mussel, zebra mussel, and golden mussel. As indicated by their ecological amplitudes, the quack and zebra mussels occupy similar niches of golden mussel and show high competitiveness. As shown in this figure, our modeling indicates high invasive risk of golden mussel in both North and South America, but the invasion has been mainly reported in South America, while not reported in North America to date. It is explained that zebra and quack mussels introduced to North America earlier and gained the competitive edge. In addition, after the invasion of zebra and quack mussels, ship ballast water treatment is required, and this restrains the further invasion of golden mussel. This figure shows the present distribution of golden mussel in China and the neighboring countries. Especially after 2015, the golden mussel were found in the hydropower stations in southwest China, indicating that the golden mussel is approaching the high plateau area. Even though as a native species of southern China, golden mussel biofouling in man-made structures has drawn very much attention, such as the cooling water system in hydropower stations and high attachment density in water diversion projects are reported in all regions infested by golden mussel. Along with the blooming of interbasin water diversion and pump storage or hydropower projects, the golden mussel biofouling would cause more challenges. The first challenge is reducing water conveyance efficiency. Golden mussel biofouling significantly affects the boundary roughness, the flow patterns, and the frictional energy losses of water diversion projects. Taking the Grand South to North Water Transfer Project as an example, for the worst-case scenario, additional energy losses caused by golden mussel biofouling amount to 30% in the trapezoidal channel, 60% in the open channel aqueduct, and 90% in pressure-driven flow in the circular pipe. Moreover, along with the continuous introduction of golden mussel by the South to North Water Transfer Project, its terminal, Beijing, has suffered high risk of golden mussel infestation. Our field investigation shows that golden mussel has colonized almost all the rivers and lakes in Beijing and caused significant changes in the aquatic ecosystem. In addition, the mussel bypass adhesion and corrosion has caused chemical and physical deterioration of concrete structures, like concentrations of aluminum, manganese, and iron increased while calcium decreased in the mussel-infested concrete. Higher porosity, especially the harmful pores, increased significantly, resulting in increased water absorption and decreased compressive stresses of concrete. Nevertheless, smelly dead mussels are common in water diversion projects, cause several water quality deterioration. Poor water quality influence the bacterial communities and results in a no biodiversity. Especially, dead mussels promote growth of pathogenic bacteria that may cause unexpected damage in drinking water security. We have been working on prevention strategies of golden mussel biofouling for decades. As shown in this figure, golden mussel is merely a common species of microinvertebrates in the food web of its natural habitats, and does not cause aforementioned problems. Thus, for the man-made water diversion channels, introduction of fishes and regulation of primary productivity are attempted to prevent high density and biofouling of golden mussel. In addition, chemical and alternative strategies for controlling golden mussel's survival or attachment are attempted based on its ecological amplitudes during the different life stages. For instance, water temperature adjustment, thermal treatment, oxygen deprivation, oxidizing chemicals, coating, anti-reproduction, and so on. We are also testing the alternatives, including illumination, water velocity adjustment, turbulence, integrated pool as means of reducing downstream sediment. As indicated globally, once invasion happened, it is impossible to eliminate the mussels. Thus, monitoring and risk assessment are more practical. We are now working on timely monitoring, AI-powered risk assessment, and physical mechanism-based prediction of golden mussel infestation and biofouling associated with interbasin water diversion activities. This work is financially supported by the Ministry of Science and Technology, National Nature Science Foundation, Ministry of Water Resources of China, and industries. Great thanks to my students' continuous contribution. Here is the reference list. You can find the details in our published papers. Thank you very much for your attention. Questions or comments are welcome.
Vindos.
Bom, agradecemos a participação.
Yes, thank you. Also, Messing Shuling, and we can open for questions from the audience and questions from online. And I'm going to invite Mauro Ribeiro, the director of Bio Bureau, and Ivan Teixeira from IBAMA, also to answer the questions from the audience and also from our listeners online.
Bom, para início dos trabalhos, então, deste painel.
Yes, to start, we have also the online speakers. Mr. Mauro Ribeiro, please, you have the floor. Yes, good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you, Ivan, Yale, and Menzing. It's very, very late for you, right? And let's see if we get some questions from our online listeners. We have no questions yet, but I have 3 questions, and I would like to start with Menjing. Then I have a question for Yale, and then I have a question for Ivan. So I know your work, and I say you have information about the infestation of the golden mussel in the system of water diversion and the channels. I would like to ask you to tell a little bit about this infestation. Do you have information about the losses, the financial impacts in this hydropower installations and the system of waters?
Okay, thank you very much for this question.
Sí.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Sim.
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Yes, thank you very much for this question. About this financial loss, it is very huge. I can give an example that in South China, we have assessment the loss for a very small water diversion project, like 100 kilometer long. That one, they spent 5 million RMB every year to clean up. That is only for this 100 kilometer long small scale interbasin project. And for the south to north water diversion project, the example I just showed, that is 1,400 kilometer. So you can imagine how large. We gave a rough assessment that is about 0.1 or 0.3 billion RMB. Just consider the water convenience efficiency reduct. And if we also add the loss to deal with repairing of the structures and to deal with water quality, that financial loss is even much more than that.
É impressionante, a gente ainda não tem uma... A gente ainda não conseguiu consolidar números.
Yes, it's very impressive. We still cannot consolidate the losses in different systems. This should be the next step because beside the power sector, we have the impacts in Barreto, we have the impacts in the basins Tietê. So this is a water diversion channel that is very long.
Oh, yes, about hydropower, I can also add some information. That is for some water pump storage hydropower, we just assess that. It's also about $1 million. Yeah, I should use dollars. $1 million for a small power station. That is a small scale. So if we're not scared that the cost can be even much more than that. As you just explained, that is very common when the biomass gets the biophoning gets to the cooling water system, and then they have to shut down the whole hydropower station to clean up and to restart. So for that, every year they can spend $1 million to do that. Yeah.
Excelente.
Yes, excellent. I have a question for Yale.
How do you understand, or what's your opinion after the presentation of the project that you are sponsoring about the infestation or the transmission of this infectious agent? There are many basic questions yet to be answered, from the cryopreservation, the culture of cells. How do you live with financing for a development of a solution that is with a low TLR, but still has to move a long way before it comes to the market to be commercialized? As far as I understood, the development that you are still now, is this a big challenge to work with species that are not traditional models in research, in biological and medical sciences, so that we can develop these solutions? We have to start with a low TRL. And what about the challenges concerning financing for these solutions that start like this in the United States?
Yes, these are huge challenges, both, as a scientist in the lab, that it's a huge challenge to gain all of that knowledge that's necessary to develop these technologies. I'm used to that because I've worked on a lot of organisms that don't have a lot of this background knowledge, but then to try and take it to a detailed technology like this and develop a control is a challenge. And so we're working on it one piece at a time, and our colleagues at BiomeLab, who are doing a lot of this work, their experience with other organisms to push forward our knowledge of quagga and zebra mussels and determine how to develop these technologies. And certainly from the economic side of it, it's a huge challenge as well, because you can't simply put the money directly towards developing the technology. A lot of the money right now is going towards this basic research. We're very lucky that my organization, Bureau of Reclamation, our R&D office, has been very supportive of this and sees that this is a great opportunity, even though there are huge challenges involved in the approach. And we're hopeful that they'll continue to support it. Our colleagues at BiomeLab are working very hard to find other funding sources to also support it. They see that there needs to be support outside of just our organization, but at a more national level as well. And so they're working very hard to get that funding, to build their group, to bring more resources to it. So yeah, it's a big challenge to do this with organisms that are not as well understood as insects and rodents that are the focus of other biocontrol projects. But I think, we just have to have that understanding and make that clear to the funders when we go to them. Initial steps have to happen as well before the solution is developed.
Maravilha. Obrigado. Ivan.
Thank you. Ivan, when I join meetings in the control plan, and especially in the last monitoring, we saw that many of the actions that you have shown that didn't move forward, they didn't do so because of the lack of financing for them. So what is your opinion of this possibility of IBAMA working together with ANEEL so that these projects that are being developed in the PNB project can be included to the big plan, or they have any kind of support from IBAMA, and when this is applied, that this can bring more safety for the companies that finance these kind of developments? Well, the point of financing was really a problem, right? Because the researchers and people who participate, they always said, we send the research project and it's not approved, or we need more studies and they have not been approved. Even actions of monitoring where you already have information about how to do, even though you need logistics to go to the field, you need institutions with qualified people, local people that can perform the actions. And this is something that we found even with abandonment by colleagues that they wanted to be articulators, but they had to quit because they had to reorganize so many points, as we saw in 2018, when they reorganized everything in the institution and said, well, now we cannot do it. So we were a little bit left aside, like orphans. And also, there were a series of other problems. As for the participation of ANEEL, it would be most welcome, not only ANEEL, but also other institutions, organizations, that they are as well victims, but also they can be those who help us, who sponsor us, because we need the participation of state agencies and everything is welcome. The Ministry of Defense through the river departments, the port departments, the navigation companies. We have also to give a good emphasis on the Amazon region, because there's a lot of navigation there, and the infection by ships is a problem, because also agriculture, fishing would be impacted by that. Do you mean that the moments of monitoring of the plan, because I still have two other questions that I want to ask, they come from the audience. If anybody else from the audience have questions, please. Do you believe that moments of monitoring would be possibilities for us to bring inside the plan R&D projects and ANEEL that eventually were not in the radar of IBAMA? They could be included in this national plan through the events of monitoring, or continuously throughout time, simply getting in touch with you. Yes. Excellent. Any other question? There is a question here from Itaipu, from Menjing, to Menjing. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Okay, so mentioning Stephen, who is the manager of the Division of Mechanical Maintenance from Itaipu Hydropower Plant, asked if you know the impact of the mussel in the power plant of Três Gargantas, and if they live with this problem or how they approach or how they solved the problem. I don't know if anybody from CTG also would have information about this plan. You don't have this problem there. Oh, you don't have information. Yeah, so Menjing, if you know any information, please.
Yes, to share some information about problems in hydropower and what they do. In China, we have dealt with a couple of them. For the first one, in the Yangtze River Basin, where the golden mussel they were originally reported at the area, and there, we found the major problem is in the cooling water system, because the pipes they are usually very small, like 5 centimeter in diameter. So just a few of the mussels they were clogging the system. So without working for the cooling water system, the hydropower suddenly shut down. The plant shut down. This caused very much issue, and then they have to replace the filter very frequently. And then afterwards, we found the problem is for the pump storage system. If they clean up the upper reservoir and the lower reservoir, then this cooling water system, before the water get into the system, they treat the water, and then this can cure the mussel villigers, and for this they have saved the system. So the water source treatment is important for the cooling water system. And for the other type problem is attachment on the dams and on the valves, gates. So if the mussel attached on the gates, they cannot open the gates as normally. Then this can cause some dangerous situation. And for this part, they usually use anti-coating. So we have tested about 100 different products for anti-coating, and there are a few they can work in 3 years, but after 3 years, this anti-coating they don't work very well. For example, the muscles can attach again, the density approaching high level again. And the best anti-coating until now we found that is like mimic the shark skin. So this anti-coating they can release in the water and afterwards release. So after 5 years they put the coating again. So this type product works okay, but the other types they are not so effective, I would say. So in a summary,
Excelente.
just clean
Se a
up
gente
the
não tem
water
mais
source
nenhuma
and then
pergunta da plateia, eu vou
anti-coating,
novamente
and then
agradecer o
cleaning
Iê, o
with
Ivan e a Mengen.
lavas
E se
or
você conseguir
vinegars.
ficar mais um pouco acordada, Mengen, eu prometo que a próxima sessão a
So,
gente
and I
vai...
promise in the next session, we will discuss the solutions that are being developed, Menjing, and I believe that your opinion will be very interesting. Thank you. So we thank Mauro Rebelo for moderating this panel, all those who are participating. We are going to have a short break, 20 minutes, for a coffee break, and we will be at the lobby, and then we will resume with the other panel. Thank you very much.
Vamos retomar os lugares, manter os telefones no modo silencioso.
So, welcome back. Please keep your phones on the silent mode. And now we will continue, our workshop. We are now going to panel number 2 with the topic contributions of R&D ANEL for the control of the golden mussel. It will be moderated by Angélica Pecafes, the environmental manager from Energia. We will start with a presentation that has the topic alternative methods of control for the golden mussel. And we invite Mr. Otto Maher, director from ATGC Environmental Genetics, for this presentation.
O convite da ANEL.
Thank you for the invitation of ANEL and Professor Mauro. Thank you very much for this invitation to be part in this event. And I will talk with you a little bit about the control for the golden mussel, especially in the electric industry. I believe, I would say, that more than 90% of the investments in this work and research, etc., was done by the electric industry. Other industries have also been affected, pulp and paper. Last week, I was upstate Alagoas in a company of water sanitation, and it was the first time I saw a city without water because of the golden mussel. So they stayed 10 days without water, with water rationing because of mussels. The pumps and water intakes with problems, clogged and burnt, public ministry involved. So in certain moments, we believe that this issue with the mussels have been stabilized with research, but unfortunately, we will find many unpleasant surprises with this appearance in upstate Northeast, where we find a population needing water, and then they have to face this other problem because of the golden mussel. In the north of the country, I don't even say that we don't find the mussel because we haven't found it yet, because there's so so few researches done, but the trend is that in that region, it might be a big problem. Even the transportation of the population is done with boats, and this dispersion will be very big, very fast, causing many impacts. But now let's talk about the control in the hydropower plant, which is where I have performed my work since 2001. So, only for you to have an idea, I always like to include this because practically everybody lives with the mussel, but it's always interesting to show this, how fast it is. So in a hydropower plant in upstate Paraná, we found the first mussel in May 2006. 6 months later, 62 per square meter. And 1 year later, 149,000 per square meter. So we are around 107,000 mussels per square meter. This is done in the water entrance where they concentrate most and easier to make the analysis as well. Some impacts here for the maintenance of the plant. This is a pressure regulation chamber. So it's a space right after the grid for water entrance. And this is a structure of 10 floors high. So it's very big, you can see. And these steps here, these ladders here are done for making the water tank lubrication. They were used because now, because of the volume of mussels, we cannot even get down to make the maintenance. And the odor is terrible. It's very complicated for the maintenance activities. Preventives are not carried out anymore. They only go down using rappel when there is a big problem. So all the problems brought by the mussel here, the heat exchanger with a lot of hydrozoa, mussels and water, they stop there as a kind of a filter. And this is a filter of the water entrance in the cooling system, a plate heat exchanger. And this was only one of the cases of a plant where they did no kind of treatment and had their pipes almost 100% clogged by the mussel. Oh, this is an FCT plant, power plant. And so the chemical products that are used, that are more used to control the golden mussel currently in the electric sector now are chemical products. There were different changes of regulations and stages. I will start from the beginning. We used the sodium hydroxide, caustic soda, chlorine of different types, gas chlorine, dechlorine, products that are ethane based. And in the beginning, when the 2001, when they arrived and we were very scared, we didn't know what was going to happen in Brazil and in the plants. The people started with the products that they had at the time with chlorine. Chlorine is the most used chemical product for water treatment in the world. We knew a lot about chlorine, so we started with these measures so that chlorine, sodium hydroxide, we know that they kill the organism, but also they bring other impacts with them, environmental impact, system impact, impacts for the people who work in mechanical maintenance. We cannot forget that people from the plant, they belong to the electric department or mechanical department. We don't have chemical engineers there, so that's why it's a great problem with the handling of these products. So we had all these products, everything that was used, and what I have seen is that we didn't find that progress. There was a moment when there were some products that I consider palliative in that moment when we were very scared, but there were no evolution to other methods, less impacting methods, either the impacts of molecular control, physical methods. So this is one of the items that I call your attention, because all that investment that was done in the initial moment of research needs to continue going on. We cannot stop where we are. We can improve. There is room for us to move on, and especially in this part of control. So we decided to tax in the hydropower plant a physical method. We don't have one very well established yet, so we brought to test the ultraviolet equipment of a company from Israel. So they did several tests with success in the US and Canada. There are even power plants using this product over there. People from the US in the presentation, they showed a little bit of UV equipment, and we brought it because UV is a method very much used for water treatment, very well established. It's safe. And illumination, ultraviolet radiation. And so it brings no direct impact for maintenance. And the sustainability, it has a punctual impact. It leaves no waste, no residue downstream in the cooling system of the plant. And there is a cost for the implementation, but it is mitigated throughout the years. With all the purchase of chemical products, it becomes very attractive in the long term. And maintenance facility. So something that the plants are very well used to deal with. And how does this UV radiation work? Just for you to get acquainted with its operation. So the focus of the UV radiation is to penetrate directly on the cells, changing the DNA and acting on vital organs, functions, respiratory, breathing, assimilation, and they have a big spectrum, 200 to 320 nanometers. And then we know that this is definite and makes these cells degenerate completely, just for you to have an idea of how the ultraviolet works. The ultraviolet is so well established that for water treatment, there are some pathogens and organisms that are included on this table. For you to have 5 log of reduction required by the legislations for coliforms and all pathogens, you know exactly how much you have to inject. So you just have to look on the table, come with the water treatment equipment for human consumption, and you use this. I believe that for golden mussels, we will have this shortly. And we cannot forget that the electrical system have problems also with hydrozoa, sponges, other organisms as well. And we selected this equipment because of some differentials that it brings compared to common equipment found in the market. One of which is this coating that the equipment have with quartz crystals, and this makes the ultraviolet radiation to operate like with fiber optics. So it goes on hitting on this coating until it finds an organism to attach on, while the other equipments have only one beam, and if it goes straight, it will dissolve without provoking any kind of direct impact on the organisms. And the other item that was a problem in the beginning with the study of the UV for the electric sector is that with the time going on, the UV bulbs became covered with algae and other organisms that made it difficult for them to work. So the company developed just like a windshield wiper that goes up and down to remove all the fouling. And these are the plants already with this equipment installed, 9 plants in the US and Canada. And here from the Bureau of Reclamation in the United States, they gave them this award for the project of installation of ultraviolet for the control of the zebra mussel in the United States. So we are with a pilot here in a hydropower plant, and we chose a critical point in the plant, which is a part of the bearings. Just for you to have an idea, this heat exchanger here, this is the generator bearing guide, and the turbine bearing is down. They were never opened before for maintenance before the mussels arrived, but after the mussels arrived, and now they are being opened every 15 days for maintenance. Just for you to have an idea of the size of the increase of the maintenance efforts and all the work that the people have to do currently. We chose the worst point for making this installation, because if we can solve this problem over there, we know then the rest of the system will be easier and faster. So you have the UV equipment totally in stainless steel, and you always need a filter before. We pass it with ultraviolet light. It works on the biological part, and it needs a filter to remove any particulate or shells or anything that comes from the reservoir. It's totally self-controlled. It increases and decreases dosage alone according to what was established. The exchange of bulbs is done with the equipment in operations, just like a normal bulb. And here are some of the preliminary results. 10 months we are running this experiment, and it should go until the 12th month. And after it finishes, we're going to open all these pipes and the heat exchangers to make an analysis of how it was before, how it is now in terms of percentage of coating. For you to have an idea of what is going on, we have without treatment at all. You see that there are some peaks here of density of larvae, of fouling of the golden mussel in the cooling system. We have the chemical product used in the plant, and you see that in big movements, there are big densities of the mussels with a certain control, but it's not a very effective control. The plant is facing many problems of fouling because of the mussel, even with chemical products being used. And we still don't have any mussels with a line with UV. So we install biobox in these lines. We remove some samples and they are sent to the lab to be analyzed for the density of mussels. We have found very good results until now. We hope to maintain it until the end of the trial. So this is what I had to tell you. I had to be faster to keep my 10 minutes, and I am available for those who have any questions.
Vamos lá, vamos iniciar então rapidinho.
So now we have people online. We really wanted to stay here, and then we can answer your questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. Now we are going to invite Juliana Américo from the Bio Bureau to talk about the biotechnological control of the golden mussels. Good afternoon. Yeah, there's my presentation. I'm going to tell about our progress in the biotechnological control of the golden mussels. In the beginning, we identified some possible pathways for these invasions, and we saw the most common examples are the stilts for malaria and dengue, and they have a very important impact on public health, and they have solutions in a biotechnological basis. And we wanted to develop a similar route, and they are doing, for the mosquitoes, they are doing already large-scale tests to kill the population, the whole population in 1 year. So this technology they use for the malaria mosquitoes is a genetical mechanism that can change the genes. Here we selected a gene that will make this animal sterile. And here on the left side, we can see the conventional, Mendel heritage. And here we can see that after some generation, we have a small proportion of these animals. When we see the gene drive, here we have the gray ones, we have the inactive copy of the gene, and we have an active copy. So they can transmit this to their descendants. But because of the gene drive, they can transmit only the inactive copy, different to the usual heritage. And here we can see after 2 generations, we have the sterile mussels, and this is suppressing the population. That's the mechanism. This is a program we started in 2017 with the first R&D project from ANEL. In this first project, we identified these genes and changed the gametes of the species. And the second project took with a help of CTG and 2 innovation institutes, we did a study of genetical diversity, and we saw that there are no genetically different populations. So in the south, southeast, the central area. So this means that biotechnological controlling can be a way. And now we're ending the phase 3, and that's the focus of our presentation, has a bigger scope with more partner companies. We have CTG Brazil and Hubus and SPIC. So the most important goal of this third project was to make some advance in reproduction and genetic manipulation in the labs to generate the modified muscles. We had some developments in 3 different areas. In the genetical program, we improved the genome and also the ecological modeling. We applied a model to make some simulations and to identify the potential risks. And in the end, we had also the development of a methodology to measure the degree of infestation in the reservoirs. Here in our genetical program, in the third phase, we were able to increase the genome in the platinum standard. And this genome, we have the same number of sequences as the chromosomes we have in the species. That's like a huge puzzle, and we were able to complete 99% of the pieces of the puzzle. And this is not only a reference to monitor the performance of the gene drive in the future, we are also able to identify the genes the golden mussel has in common with the species that are more known. And now we see that more than 80% of the genes of the golden mussel are known. So that, and with this, we were able to reduce the huge challenge that we have no knowledge and no data about the species. So the methodology we developed for the quantification of the infestation and involves the classical methods, so to do the counting, but we integrated this with remote sensorial and artificial intelligence. And we not only were able to measure the density and to see where we have more occupations and where we have a higher density. This methodology was developed in the Ucubac complex, Jupiá, Três Irmãos, and Ilha Solteira. And during the development, we saw that artificial substrates, for example, where we have constructions and floating structures, here we have very critical places. And here we have the focus of the golden mussels. And here we have, it's important to concentrate our efforts in these areas. The ecological modeling, as I said before, we did the simulation in different scenarios to use the technological controlling to understand what variables are important. So this modeling gave us some important insights to use this technology. For example, we were able to see that the bigger the area of the application, the quicker we can suppress the population. We saw that the most important factor for the success of this technology are resistant varieties. And we were able to have molecular strategies to avoid these resistant varieties. And in the end, we saw that if we associate the technological control with other methodologies or natural methodologies to reduce the populations, for example, when we have a drought, we can accelerate the suppression of the invading population with the biotechnological control. And in the synthetic biology, we were able to overcome the biggest challenge. That's the reproduction of this muscle 100% in a lab. So one of the most important characteristics on the golden mussel is that we have reproduction in diverse environments, but as soon as you go to the lab, it's not the same situation. We have a lot of challenges. We needed the conditions, and we were able to give these animals an adequate diet, and it was possible to reproduce them, have the gametes in the water, and the reproduction. And now they have 5 months in the lab. During this process and the development of this protocol, we were able to scale it up 12 times the number of embryos. And it's still a small scale, but we can see that this process can be improved, it's scalable, and we can go on with the next steps of the development of this project. And with this time, so here we have embryos in the lab, we were able to advance with the genetical modification. So here we have the synthetic DNA and put one gene with a green fluorescent protein. So we were able to check if this protein is in the organism, and we were able to trace it. So in the adult population, we were able to detect these proteins in the gametes. And so these animals can transmit this synthetic DNA to their descendants. So this was the most important point in the third phase. We still have some challenges ahead, and my colleague was going to talk about this shortly. So the next steps will be to scale up this process in the lab to have enough muscles to have safe tests. And I would like to thank the help of CTG, SPIC, TIJOA, to help us to develop this project. Thank you also to all the teams. We have a lot of researchers participating, and Anil, not only for this open space to discuss the topic today, but also the program, R&D program that made our project feasible. So if you have questions, here we have the information. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you, Juliana, for your presentation. And if you have questions online, you can send the questions also by WhatsApp. We have 145 people participating online, and we would like to go on with the topic technical and economical viability and the controlling of the golden mussels with Mauro Rebelo from Bio Bureau. Yes, could you please open the link? I am using a site in my presentation. Let's hope this is going to work.
On Zoom? apertar control
How
mais.
do I zoom in here? Is Control plus? How can I do it? Thank you. So perhaps a little less. Now, I will resume the 5 points that Agnes mentioned to you, and I'm going to talk about the technological risk, regulatory risk, social risk, and market risk. Let's start with the technological risk because it's the shorter one. I believe that the main risk in terms of the development of a technology is not the success in creating this organism. The main variable is if we, as a group, will be able to change the organism. There are many organisms throughout history, especially in agriculture, that were changed, they were modified. We know that the technological worked for the malaria mosquito. So the main question is not if the muscle can be modified, but if we can modify and create this genetically modified muscle. And I believe that according to Juliana's presentation, we can say, yes, we have this capacity, and the marks that we have reached throughout these 6 years show that we can overcome the challenges and modify the muscle. And then the other challenge would be if we could reproduce and scale this production. And even as she said, we need 12 times on top of these other 12 times so that we can start making tests on the lab and then in the field. But also all the evidences show that we can overcome this challenge. And I brought this quote from Tony Nolan, one of the leaders on the research of the gene drive for the malaria mosquito, because this was in an event where we were, of all the events of gene drive, all the gene drive systems being developed in the world November last year. And there's always a big concern of the traditional population, especially in Africa, where the gene drive systems are anticipated of being applied because the GMOs, and then they say, my greatest concern is not if the gene drive will end with all the species in the world, but if it can eradicate the malaria mosquito. So the greater risk is that it doesn't work and eradicate the malaria mosquito. This is also our concern. We have then the ecological modeling that Juliana showed as a way of anticipating such a challenge. Our mitigation strategy for these risks is to try to prototype with a strategy that we call fast and dirty, and being bold in the experiments that we do, trying to get quick evidence showing that something is going to work, and then we come with the reproduction of these trials following the scientific rigor in this approach of performance that we call slow and clean. That's why Juliana and I make such a good clean. I am the fast and dirty, she is the slow and clean, and we complement each other. And it's like this that we have obtained success in this performance. As I mentioned about the regulatory risk, first the technological, but now talking about the regulatory risk, I believe that there are advantages, as Agnes mentioned. We could be the first gene drive system to be tested in the field, in the world, because despite people from malaria being very far ahead in technological terms, the regulatory challenge that they face, because the system involves human health, is greater. And they haven't been able to get all the permits to go to the field. Already they are ready because of this challenge involving human health. That's why we can have this possibility of going to the field and test an environmental gene drive, even because the inventors of this technology. But there are risks nevertheless. First, I'm going to talk about the advantage. The regulatory environment in Brazil for MGOs, or GMOs, sorry, we were the first country to approve the self-limiting mosquitoes. We were the first country to approve the GMO salmon for human consumption. And this is a good signal. On the other side, there are risks also with this. So Simon Warner, one of the scientific directors of Oxytec, when he saw the first article on the newspaper that we issued, he said, well, to approve a self-limiting organism was possible. We managed, but it wasn't easy. To approve a gene drive, then, well, good luck. And this is another quote. One point that is important and difficult, and I didn't show here, is that the regulatory agencies here, the CTNB or IBAMA, they don't work with hypotheses. So I cannot go to CNTB and say, I'm going to have a muscle like this, that, and that. What do you believe it's going to be? No, I have to show the muscle, and only then they can give their opinion. So we would have two strategies for mitigation. One would be to obtain a muscle with some genetic modification and start the process. There are two problems with this strategy. One is that we remove the focus of our team of creating definite solutions and put it on creating a temporary organism so that we can try to minimize the risk. We remove the focus of the team. And the second is that the problem is not a genetically modified organism, is a gene drive, which is a genetic system that is very complex and not tested before. So the best that we can do is to work with consultancy advisory of people that already went through similar process for agriculture, for instance, and they can help us and provide some guidance during the tests that will take place in the next stage. The social risk. Oh, they're not going to appear. There we are. Let's move up, please. You can see this presentation later, but there is a very nice video talking about what is a GMO. And they asked this question for several people saying, what do you believe of the GMO? Well, I don't like genetically modified organisms. They are very bad. So what does GMO mean? Nobody knew what GMO meant. So there is a prejudice which is based on misinformation, asymmetry of information, and this is the main social risk, because when we see the scientific evidence and the charts, there is a kind of joke. You can see the red dots, the big red dots would mean several casualties because of GMOs, but the map is fully gray, no casualty. After 30 years feeding livestock with feed using GMO plants, we don't find not even one casualty registered in the scientific literature that was caused by a GMO organism. They are extremely safe. So I did this kind of a joke in the World Congress of Social Sciences in Japan in 2018, saying that driving is more dangerous than building a gene drive. Although Joe's husband, who works with the regulatory for the malaria mosquito, said, well, it's useless to say that the risk is low because there is the risk and the risk perception. And if the perception of the population is that it is dangerous, we cannot ignore this. This is not our strategy. They'll try to ignore this. Quite the contrary. The mitigation of this risk is to dialogue with society, and events like this is a way of starting this dialogue in this moment.
Bom, o risco mercadológico.
And market risk. I believe this is the largest risk that we face currently because we don't know who is the paying customer for this solution. So let's imagine that the muscle, the biotechnological control might already be approved, regulated, and confirmed. Who's going to pay for that? We don't know. So are the hydropower plants going to pay? The ministry? What ministry? Will it be the basin committees of the agricultures, the water intake people? How are we going to do this? We multi-use reservoirs where the benefit is diffused, but somebody has to pay. So currently, in parallel with this technological development, we make all the work of development of businesses, trying to identify this paying customer. And one of the ways of mitigating this risk is to use technological orders, trying to develop in this fourth stage a technological order, which is an instrument for financing the innovation, and where this prospect customer say, I am the paying customer, I want to pay for you to develop this technology to me. So we hope that in the next stage, we will be able to identify and use the technological order. For you to have an idea, this is the way how all the vaccines from COVID were developed in Brazil, using this kind of contract and financing. And finally, the financial risk. As Agnes also mentioned, we have this challenge of trying to obtain 50 to 100 million to move from TRL6 until moving this technology to the market. This is not a figure based on an estimate that we did on how much it can cost. It is based on how much it costed for other GMOs to be developed, like the malaria mosquito, and for them to arrive in the market. So we have a benchmarking here for comparison. We try to analyze in the R&D annual for the next years how the mussels project would fit in the targets of the PDI itself and what would be its alignment with the strategic objectives of Big Key. I don't have any concern about this because the metrics are very much related to the progress of the TRL. And it's like this that we have monitored and measured the progress of the mussel. As for strategic objectives, when you analyze them, you see the environment embedded over there. So we might say, well, mussels environment, but the environment that is in there is mainly connected to climate change and energy transition and the impact of the energy grid on environmental issues and not specifically for the golden mussel. So if I could, I would like to see within the strategic objective something more aligned with this risk factor that is so big for this industry, all the industries actually. And then when we think about ways of mitigating risk, of not being able to make this achievement and take much more time that is necessary to develop this solution, I believe that with the resources available, our estimate is that with the resources available, we can, if we obtain the regulatory approval, of course, we go to the field and test the mussel in 3 years, then conclude the tests in the field after 5 years. But if we take 1 or 2 years to negotiate the contracts of financing, all of this are years that will be added to the process. So for us to create an RISE, a network of innovation of the electric sector for the golden mussel is very important. So this process for the collection of resources for this everything is mitigated and that we can move forward on this. On the other side, we are getting together with the 100 open startups, which is a hub for fostering open innovation in Brazil, to help companies and those who are supporting, that are companies that are in the ranking of the 100 open startups and that have a key importance in this ecosystem of open innovation, that they come and become active. So Bio Bureau was top 3 in the ranking of technology companies in 2022. And the 100 open startups is very encouraged with the possibility of working together with us in helping in the collection of these resources using their network. So we are confident that we can move on in this challenge of collection of funds. This is what I had to tell you concerning the risks and their mitigation and the technical and economic feasibility. Thank you very much.
Bom, agradecemos ao Mauro Rebelo e vamos agora para...
Thank you very much, Mauro Rebelo. Now we can answer questions from the audience and also from online. I would like to invite Angélica Beccato, the coordinator from Tijuana Energia, and Otto Mata, the director of ATGC, Juliana America, scientific director of Bio Bureau, and Mauro Rebelo, the director of Bio Bureau. And we have already the first question from the audience here. You can please say your name. We have the microphones available. And my question here, first, I would like to give the floor to Angélica Beccato. Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you for your availability to participate on this panel and this event. It's a very important event for us. I've been with this work since the beginning of the third phase. I'm very happy with the results that Bio Bureau and hubs showed us. This is the problem is good map and to monitor the environmental conditions that can interfere in these organisms and to show us the existing tools to observe these organisms. This is a very important aspect of the national plan, and it is a technology that can bring us, that can complement the palliative tools we are using up to now with physical and chemical products. So congratulations for your presentation. They were very good. And I give my welcome to my colleagues, to the company Speak and CTG. And I have the first question here from Fernando. Good afternoon. My name is Fernando from Tijuana, and I would like to know from Otto, where did you do this UV tests? Yes, it's near the Itaipu. It's near Foz do Iguaçu. It was in a small hydro plant. And what product is being used? Yes, we compared directly. We are going to launch the results in SNPQR, and that's why I don't want to give the results now. But before you did the test with UV, you used a chemical product, right? Yes, yes, the chemical product is being used, and then we started to use the UV. And what are the costs to for the implementation and the maintenance. Yes, the UV radiation, you need to measure UVT. That's something very similar to the structure of the water. So this measure is very important to say how many lamps you need, that it's not out of the shelf product. We need to go to the plant to do the analysis and turbidity, and it's a complex process. Yes, you have the refrigeration system in Macau Bio. And can you tell me what was the cost? Yes, we shared the cost. The company from Israel paid a part, and Copel did the installation, and they hired third parties to do the building work. So I don't know the cost. It's internal information of the company, and they do the monthly analysis to go to the plant. So I have no idea this cost of the, and this analysis can be 100,000 real. The equipment, I cannot say the price. So the analysis we did in the plant, we thought this could be paid off in 5 to 6 years. But you have no value. Yeah, it's a pilot and we need to evaluate. So perhaps we are going to have this information up to August, the event in August. And what's the potency of every generator? The plant, 1,400 megawatt and 4 units, if I'm sure, perhaps 1,400 in total. Yes, that's it. Thank you. Yes, Mauro, I have 2 questions. You said that the certification of the genetic modification of Aedes aegypti was more difficult because it was a mechanism linked to human health. But what problem could the agency see in a mosquito? For example, if you get stung and have a disease that's even worse than malaria, and you said that Aedes is in industrial scale. So we have in Brazil, or if we compare this to the mussels, have we already results in the industrial scale? Well, it seems to be the same thing, but it's not. We have the mosquito of malaria and dengue, and here we have 2 different technologies. The technology used for the dengue mosquito is polemic, but not that much. And we have 2 phases for the regulation. The agency needs to check if the organism is safe or not. And for example, genetic modification cannot leave one organism and go to another. And the second one is the commercial aspect. If the solution. So the first phase is safety. And this is usually easier to tackle. And the efficiency is more difficult. We had this for the dengue mosquito. And we had this mosquito, and this wasn't authorized for many, many years. Only during the epidemics, we had this allowed. And now, today, we can you can buy a box, and you put the water, and then you can protect your own home with genetically modified mosquitoes for a while. For the malaria mosquito, I'm going to give you a report. We heard on the COP of biodiversity, it was a talk of African researchers in a UN talk, and the people of the audience, they said, but if this mosquito bites me, yes, but this wouldn't bite because only the female bite, and what we changed, what's genetically modified, is the male insect. And but here we have a really lack of information. All these questions make no sense in a biological aspect, but we have this huge risk perception in the population, and that's not real. So the regulatory agency, they need to deal with all these different pressures of society to evaluate this. But it's easy. If we don't do anything new with malaria, we're going to have more and more people dying of malaria, because our capacity to tackle malaria is going to the limits. So in our country, we have IBAMA organizing the regulation, because it is considered a pesticide. I think, as no one is going to eat the golden mussel, and the golden mussel is not going to bite anyone, probably we won't have this direct impact on human population. We need to deal with other impacts, with this asymmetry of population. I think the challenge will be smaller, but yes, in terms of technology, it is a really very controversial technology. But in terms of sensitivity and the environmental agency, do you have a feeling already? Yes, there we have it. We are discussing this in the plan of the control of golden mussels. One of the goals is the development of new technologies, because in the national plan, we know that the existing technologies won't be able to control the problem. So we're really giving all the information to IBAMA, all the goals of the project, but only now we have this genetically modified organism. And now we need to ask IBAMA for the authorization to do the test. So we have a question. Well, we are really, really late, and we need to stop now. But I had a lot of questions, but unfortunately, we are late. But thank you very much, and we are going to have the next panel now.
We thank the participants of the panel. We are running a shortened time, so we will continue with the next activity in this workshop, the control of mussel infestation phase 3. Now we have panel 3 with the topic financing instruments, and it will be moderated by José Lavaquiao, Director of Hubs, and we invite for the first presentation talking about economic subvention, credit, and capital for entrepreneurism. So Mr. Milton Damaso from Financing Studies and Projects FINEP. Please, you can feel comfortable wherever you want to stay. It's easier for me to see my slides from here, I believe. Good afternoon. I would like to thank, first of all, Anil on behalf of Paula for the invitation and to be part of this workshop. And it's an opportunity to talk about support and financing. The National System of Innovation is quite complex with several products, several programs, and sometimes the company entrepreneurs, they don't know exactly everything that is available. So FINEP is a financing agency linked to the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, almost 55 years of existence with several programs of support since the structure of research until scholarships, resources for mid and small companies, startups, several programs. I will mention just a few. And I'm going to talk about credit, and remembering that these products can provide support to companies from any industry and also projects related to this problem that we are mentioning here, the golden mussel. So we have this credit that is reimbursable with attractive market rates. We have an indirect operation focused on mid, small, and big companies, another one for mid and big companies. And according to the profile of the company, they can decide where they're going to collect the financing. We have all these lines following all the steps from R&D to the most advanced steps, for instance, in terms of the own team, softwares, everything linked to R&D, innovation products, moving throughout the maturity levels. The rates, as I mean, are very attractive. Today, they go around the TJLP minus 2.7 or 2.5% the year, depending on the innovation of the project. The most innovative get better rates. Some lines of payment go up to 24 months, and there we are facing some changes. Probably we will have even better deadlines, and the rates will become even cheaper for those who have an interest of collecting a financing for innovation projects. I will believe this is a good moment because these are rates that are 5-6% a year, well below what the market offers, that you will be able to obtain investments in innovative projects. We have also the decentralized counter for PMEs. It's financial agents that repass resources from FINEP, and today the lines with an annual course in the order of TR plus 4.2 every year, a final rate around 6% without IOF, very cheaper conditions. So they are very well subsidized rates to support the development of these more ambitious projects with very good deadlines, longer deadlines, always a good opportunity. We also have a public calling of economic subvention. These are non-reimbursable resources and focused in highly innovative, highly relevant projects. And this calling is in a continuous course. You can submit your proposal at any moment. And we have companies from different sizes that can submit the proposals, and the CTs have to represent at least 5% of the budget, and projects that are included between the TRLs 3 and 7. This is a continuous flow. The companies can send their proposals at any moment until the resources are over. And here we have a availability of 55.5 million reais with 5 line opens: offshore wind, solar, floating. And here we have the companies, startups, those with projects they can propose. So you have 55 million available projects, 3 to 15 millions. The deadline for the payment is 36 million. And we have support, personnel expenditures, third-party services, pieces of equipment, everything necessary to perform the project. So there is a counterpart. The company, they bring their counterpart according to their size, and some have to bring a little bit more. A big company, to every 100 reais place, that they have to give something accordingly. And this is an opportunity. It's opening. It is in the FINEP page. And another one is startups investments, a continuous flow program as well. It is open, and it's a program that invests with up to 1.5 million reais in exchange for a share participation in startups with a developed products or close to be finalized. And the FINEP gives the funds with some other investor together. Those who have interest in investing, that company can use this resource so as to mitigate and reduce the risk of the full investment and help the funding for these startups. These are a few of the programs. We have more than 30 that are open. These are just those who are more adhering to this panel, and I'm at your disposal if you have any questions. Well, we thank you, Nilton, and now we invite for the next presentation with the topic of fostering and international partnerships. Elisa Anatoli, advisor for international cooperation with COFAP. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I am Elisa Anatoli, I am responsible for CONFAP international operations. We include all the institutions of support for the research in the country, that is CONFAP. And I'm going to make a presentation showing some opportunities of cooperation that we have. We have grown a lot in the past years to support collaborative research activities with different countries, and I take care of the cooperation with the European Union. We have several programs and lines of support to provide this support. CONFAP congregates the different state organizations and their foundations, and we prepare actions together. So we support partnerships, and the foundation support, depending on the interest of the topic and availability. They participate supporting with the state, and we do this with national partners too, with the ministry, CNPq, FINEP, even to increment resources and availability. I wanted to show a context of cooperation that's very broad, very ambitious, but with many opportunities of international cooperation. It's an European Union program, which is called Horizon Europe. It's a program that includes all the areas of knowledge. It's very broad, different goals, and it covers the period until 2027. So every year in each area of the program, there are annual calls that are placed very well in advance. It's a competitive program that needs partners in Europe and internationally, but provides the possibility of assembling projects of big size. So the foundations to support research and CNPq, they have supported this, directing the national promotion to complement the participation in this program, because Brazil in the past was the direct beneficiary of European resources. But now Brazil has grown worldwide, is not considered a country under development, so is now participating in the program as a co-financing approach. Just to show you how the program is structured, because we have to look for the kind of opportunity depending on the topic. So there are 3 macro pillars. The first is directed to scientific excellence, and on this pillar we have opportunities of promotion that the European Union provide, that are scholarships and research projects for individual researchers that are supported by the European Union. And this promotes the state-of-the-art research, and Brazilians can participate with a robust promotion projects. And then we have the Marie Sadowska-Curie Actions. This is a project of research, mobility, and exchange, and another axle that supports research infrastructure. Then the main pillar, it's subdivided in thematic blocks. So within this big program, we have sub-areas, which each of them with their different calls, and with infinite possibilities, hundreds of calls. That's why it's not even possible to detail them, but I can show in my presentation where you can find them. And there is a good part of promotion and invitations to bid that are geared to environmental issues, innovation, and development. So for the projects that you want to develop, you can find many opportunities of cooperation. A third axis that finances more advanced innovation projects, including more companies. Each one of these has their work program with different calls and different opportunities. Brazil has supported in this context through an administrative agreement, an agreement that was signed between Brazil, FINEP, CONFAP, CNPq, and the European Commission to bring these opportunities of financing. These co-financing varies because each foundation, at least in the case of CONFAP, has their different rules, their modalities for support. So when there is an invitation to bid of interest, we have to invite the CNPq or the other foundation and use the lines of promotion so that we can be part of these international projects. On this portal, we can find the calls. We have many ways of doing a search here. If you know what is the area of cooperation, it's even easier, or you can do a search using keywords. And here already we publish the calls for 2023, 2024. So we can already plan ourselves for the next months and years. One thing that is important is the typology of supported projects, because we support research projects with a pilot of development and also actions of innovation, already with a more developed TRL and innovations that include the partnerships with companies. Another opportunity that have found a lot of support, and perhaps the most simple, it's a call that we launch here in Brazil very frequently, is in the context with the partnerships with the European companies or countries. We did many in different areas, and they work in such a way that each promotion agency, each company finance their own researchers. Not only Brazil finances, they all finance. And there are 2 partnerships that are very relevant for this area of research. Let me go a little faster, which is the biodiverse partnership where we introduce calls every year on several topics connected to diversity, recovery of the environment. This we did last year. One is just open now, and the next one will be open in September on solutions that are nature-based. And now going to promote, we are going to disclose, CNPq participates, and we can then involve all the states. Another, which is very relevant, is called Water for All. It is related to the management of hydro resources and collaborative projects. The objective is to put together projects using international teams and share experiences, share research results, and try to find solutions in an integrated way. This is another one about the blue bioeconomy, also open, but it will close tomorrow, a little tight, but I'm showing because every year there's a call and we have to do a follow-up because it takes a little bit to assemble all these projects. Another opportunity. It's a program of mobility that we have with the European Council on Research. Every year we publish, this is not the scholarships, but possibilities of mobilities to visit projects. And this year we have 665 projects open, ready to receive Brazilian researchers, and researchers also working in companies or that can be eligible according to these rules. And here we have projects of mobility, different modalities. One that I believe is very relevant can be a staff exchange, which is a research project that is done in following a mobility approach. And this can be academic mobility, company mobility, and short-term mobility, which generates and facilitates the development of networks, networking, and access to the part of promotion. This is open now for individual scholarships, and perhaps it's interesting to apply for an European fellowships, calling researchers from Europe to make research here in the areas of interest. And some examples of bilateral cooperations in this moment we have it with Italy, Belgium, Australia, and Germany, but one open now that can be very important because it's open until September. So probably you might have time to join. It's with Spain, with the CDPI, which is a center of the development and technology of Spain. These are projects that need to include Spanish companies. On the Brazilian side, we see the FAPs participating, and also companies, depending on the rules of eligibility of the FAP. And the point is that we get a lot of support on the Spanish side trying to find partners. So if you are interested, get in touch with me and I can help to find Spanish partners. The budget in this case is already defined by the Spanish side, 175,000 euros per project, and on the Brazilian side, 75,000 euros. It's open now, and it will remain until September. And this is my contact. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elisa, for your presentation. The next is innovation and capital, and we're going to invite Bruno Brito, the director of Cedro Capital.
A todos, estão me ouvindo bem?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Anel. Yes, I I'm not from the power sector. I don't work with muscles. I'm just learning a lot from you. I am founder of a fund management company. We are members of BBCAP. And my idea, I know that we are running late. I wanted just to talk a little bit about this activity. What is venture capital? Why is it important for the company, for the country as a whole? And I wanted to connect this to the topic. I have some slides. I'm just doing this very quickly. We have three groups. First, what's venture capital, why it is important, then about our portfolio, and the third, I think that's the most important, how the complementary law 182 can help to invest in venture capital, and how this can boost research development, especially in the power sector. What is venture capital? So I imagine you had some contact with Shark Tank, but venture capital has nothing to do with this. I like this graph because it shows in the horizontal axis the phases of the company. We start with the startup, the development, consolidation, and then bigger and more mature companies. And in the vertical line, we have the capital pockets and the funding you can get on the market. So as a startup, usually they look for the seed capital. When they start development, they access venture capital, then private equity, perhaps a mezzanino. Sometimes they have PIPE funds, that's private investment in public equities or listed companies, but usually smaller companies. And then we have the liquid markets, like big companies, Petrobras, Vale, you can buy the shares. So these are short-term investments, and here we have the long-term investments with a smaller liquidity. A startup, you are not able to sell it the next month. So, and here you can see the interdependency in the different stages. So to have a developed market for net capital, it is very important to also have this intermediate phases. So the companies, they are born, they develop, and then they are a big corporation, and then they do an IPO. So the whole chain is very important to have a capital market. And what is the importance of venture capital for a country? On the left side, I listed the 10 biggest companies from the US in market capital. Here we have and the date is from yesterday. Here we have Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Berkshire. What can we see? We have some companies with a very, very high market value, but they have the same characteristic. They're quite young. Google is 25 years, Amazon 24 years, Facebook in 2000, here the Meta company. The new companies, and they only exist because of the venture capital industry. Without this venture capital, these companies probably wouldn't have developed. And if we look at here in Brazil, the right part, we start with Petrobras with $76 billion. In the only company that is younger is Nubank, also with investments from venture capital to be able to grow and to develop. So the venture capital is really in the essence of the value of a company. And therefore, this activity is very important. So just to compare, we have the biggest Brazilian companies, but if we sum up all these companies, we get to $1.4 trillion. For Petrobras, Vale, Banco Itaú, all of them. And that's the market value of Google, a 25-year-old company. So in 25 years, a group of developers created an economic value that is equivalent to almost 400 listed companies in Brazil. So here you can see the importance of this venture capital and private equity to create value in a company, in a society, sorry. And not only the biggest company, we have a lot of technological companies, so Salesforce, Netflix, ServiceNow, PayPal, they're quite new companies with very high market values and bigger than most of the Brazilian companies. So I would like to show you these numbers. Of course, they are shocking, but this shows the importance and can give the context why we should develop the venture capital industry in Brazil. So venture capital is the infrastructure for the economic development, and it's not like Shark Tank or something like this. So venture capital must be understood as an infrastructure for development. And here you have not only the resources for the development, but also governance and management. So it's a methodology to build big companies. So Facebook, Google, they're not out of thin air, just they came and built a site and grew. But it's a technology, it's a methodology to build big companies. And this is something that the venture capital can bring to the Brazilian market. Here we have some companies that were accelerated. I'm going to see this quick. So this is our portfolio from our funds. Some technology companies, some companies are sold. So the Santander, Localiza Unidas, some companies sold. And here, that's the most important topic of our talk. So we had a very different change in the law of informatics. So now it is allowed to invest in innovation funds, and in the law 172 for the startups, we have the possibility that companies that have commitments in R&D, they can invest in funds. So this is allowed since 2021. But in the paragraph 3, you see, so to have this, to get this funds, it is important to have the regulation. So, for example, in the power sector, it would be important to have this allowance from Anatel. So we are waiting for these regulations in different sectors since 3 years. But when we get to an event as today and we see the problem like the golden mussel and we see all the losses, I am so sure no company went after these resources, because we have a lot of resources for research. So here we have a lost opportunity, and you already lost 3 years. So here we have investment funds in participation, and these funds could solve these problems. And that's not only a Brazilian problem. So we have this global market to solve the problem with the mussels. So perhaps with these funds, we could create a huge company, a biotechnological company. And this is a lost opportunity. And I think we have the instruments, we have the law, and we just need some regulations from the agencies. So then the resources can be invested here. And here we could develop big companies. So I see my time is over. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Bruno Brito. You can come back here. I would like to have José Labaquial. He is director of hubs. Newton Hamatsu, I had the talk here. He's from FINEP. Elisa Natola and Bruno Brito from ABV CAP. And now I would like to give the floor to José Labaquial. Yes, I saw a problem here when we organized the event. Since the beginning, our words are always, we have a huge challenge. We need money to solve this challenge. And then in the end, we talked about money and have no time to discuss it. Yes, we really have a huge challenge for the sector. We probably have instruments to complement the investments of the companies. And I would ask if someone has a question. Yes, we have a question here from the audience.
Alô. Puxa, eu uma vez fui na...
Once I went to Endeavor, and the first thing that I saw there, well, your company is so small. We only invest, well, to go through our process, you need to be a bigger company. And then we started talking about why investment funds in Brazil didn't invest so much in the first stages in the SID. And even if the angel capital in Brazil has grown, at least in the number of angel investors more than in closed deals, so they are more in technologies, more in bytes than in atoms. So projects like this for the muscles finds great difficulty in collecting resources from the venture, even if I understand that venture is more connected to the moment of the exponential growth than on the initial stage. In other parts of the world, venture is a tool for you to invest in this company of technology as well. And when I mentioned this to Endeavor, he said, well, but Brazil has no scientists that are entrepreneurs. And in the moment I said, well, how? But then I understood, and I believe that they were right. But my question is, well, okay, if we don't have scientists that are entrepreneurs, then we don't have a venture capital that can finance scientists. How can we get out of this vicious cycle? How can we break this cycle so that we can have venture in Brazil fostering projects like the Golden Muscle and encourages and become an incentive so that more scientists become entrepreneurs because they know that they can count on this infrastructure of growth of the economy that you mentioned. Well, what happens financing to biotechnology projects faces a challenge here in Brazil, which is a structural challenge because of time. Most part of the venture capital funds that we have and other managers also have, these are vehicles for a certain period of time, 5 years. 5 years of investment period, and 5 years to sell your portfolio and return the resource for the investor. And this constraint, this temporal constraint, make that most of the funds invest in companies of software, IT, with the cycles of growth that are faster than adhering to this kind of time frame. But in biology, there are longer periods. Then you need a mandate for 20, 25 years because there are a series of stages on research and even permits of regulating agencies and visa, in your case, IBAMA as well. So only this process of authorization of permits takes 4 years, 3 years, 5. So the problem of the financing is when you put together a country with a higher interest rate, and then you create a structural difficulty for the venture capital market to finance companies in the biotech industry. So there are some vehicles, few, I agree, most for financing IT and software. And we cannot break this cycle. It will be like this, and that's it. Actually, this is part of a market maturation. The Brazilian market, when you compare to other more mature markets, the American market, Brazil is 10, 15 years behind. So as we can have interest rates that are lower and a flow of money, especially from the institutional investor, pension funds, insurance companies, etc., for this category of products, I believe that naturally funds will appear with longer durations, 15, 20 years, ready to allocate capital in this kind of asset. But it's something that takes time and needs market maturity. Any other questions? I have one for Newton. I have one for Newton. Yes. Whoever has questions, please send to the email contact@hubs.com.br, and we will be very pleased to answer, and we distribute or share the questions among the speakers, right? Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's give them a hand of applause. And we invite for the closing, official closing of this workshop. Just a little moment. Good. So let's do our closing ceremony, and we invite Mr. Paulo Luciano de Carvalho and the Deputy of CTG Brazil, Evandro Vasconcelos.
Com a palavra, o vice-presidente da CTG Brasil, Evandro Vasconcelos.
Evandro Vasconcelos, Deputy President of CTG Brazil, has the floor. I have to confess that I am a biologist formed in the School of Engineering of the University of UFMG. I knew nothing about this topic, but I leave here with a very good impression. I see very serious papers, research. I see a global action. We saw Tijua, and I was talking to them because the Tsinghua, it's not Tsinghua, it's Tijua. Yes, but I'm talking about the China's university. She believed I was talking about her company. Tsinghua is China's Harvard, is the university that can be compared to Harvard, is the elite of the Chinese researchers that are found there. And we have also the Bureau of Reclamation that talk about the management of water resources in the United States, sharing the same problem. So I believe that we are on the right way. I also mentioned in the opening about the need of an integration, and even an integration on a global scale, talking with Chinese, with Americans, and talking with Mauro. I said, look, Mauro, as an engineer, I'm always anxious to see the works finished. When are you going to deliver the industrial scale of the golden mussels, GMO? I said, Evandro, you only have to apport money. The greatest obstacle are the companies that take long to approve the financing, and the financing in stages, 7 stages. Each stage is the suffering of them to approve P&D, R&D in the companies is not a top priority. And innovation has to go up in the ranking of the companies more and more. So I leave this event very happy. I would like to congratulate Anil and here President Paulo, who is the great leader of this. He is the manager of the area of R&D. He interacts with the companies. He manages the resources. Paulo was telling me during the coffee break that he is opening, changing the process for the approval of the projects and providing a broader dimension to research. So congratulations, Paulo and Anel, for this leadership. And as I mentioned in the beginning, goes beyond the role of the regulator. Anel appears as an agency. They have always been a reference as a regulating agency in Brazil. They always innovate. They always bring good references of seriousness, of technical qualification. And once again, this is what they are showing. So thank you very much. I talked a lot to say that I'm very happy. It was a fruitful day as a biologist graduated in the School of Engineering. I'm very happy, especially because this is something that concerns me a lot. Paulo, once again, congratulations. Congratulations to Anil. Thank you, Evandro, for your words. And now the Superintendent of Research, Development and Energy Efficiency from Anel, Paulo Luciano de Carvalho. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I would like to thank all of those who are here attending this event, those who worked the companies that develop the projects, that researchers that work with the projects, we see that R&D is giving fruits. This interaction, this promotion of the papers, of the projects, they are very important. That society has to see that their resource is bringing results to society, is developing research, develop knowledge that is being applied here in Brazil. So we here in ANEEL, we are trying to improve this program, bringing innovation to the program of research and development. We are doing a public consultation every 5 years. We are requesting contribution. It will be open for 45 days until the end of May, and other actions that we will be promoting in the next months to come. Also, hydrogen renewable strategy, and also invite you all to our Congress of Technological Innovation and Technological Efficiency that will be carried out or hosted in São Luís. And coming back to the topic, I would like to thank you all once again. I believe that we are being able to do, and there are many challenges that we need to integrate with our resources, the way the resources are used. And ANEEL is here, of course, it's just a part for the electric sector, but it's more like a catalyst of interactions, developing projects in a network, having the industry associated, and the products that are developed be brought in a scale to their application. So thank you very much. Good return to your homes, and let's go to the next event. Thank you very much. So we thank your attendance here, those who were present and those who were with us virtually. This will be recorded in ANEEL's YouTube channel. Have a nice night.